Becoming a Portuguese citizen, your framework to an expedited path to dual citizenship. Hi, I'm NPG, and I help Portuguese descendants all over the world with dual citizenship, guiding them along with our network of experts all the way from here in Lisbon to America, without confusing steps and bureaucratic documents. I know, it's very hard to believe, but you can learn how on our 3-day challenge on becoming a Portuguese dual citizen. Sign up right here. Can you imagine yourself here in the center of Lisbon? Who would you bring? Your family, your friends? Imagine the things you could do with your Portuguese dual citizenship. You could go to the hospital, you could use any of the Medicare that Europe has to offer, you could work and study. This experience of having your citizenship, it's something that is easy. It's not the nightmare you're used to hearing everybody describe, so that you have access to some of these documents, to Portuguese documents that are difficult for you to understand. You'll need a birth certificate, for example, certidão de nascimento, a marriage certificate, and a whole bunch of forms that you need to fill on this process of becoming a Portuguese dual citizen. This team of people you could trust, people that could really take care of you and your citizenship, walk you by the hand all the way through the process. Very knowledgeable lawyers, solicitadores, notários públicos that will help you on this process. And you could ask your questions. Join me backstage on the VIP access pass so that you could ask questions that you have. You can find your path to citizenship, or even if you are a citizen but you want to get the citizenship for your kids and you're wondering what do you need to do, what's the next step, you could ask questions. Lawyers, experts in this area from here in Lisbon, from America, in Portuguese, in English. Being backstage has the advantage of being able to do these questions, to interact with us, to be on the same room and talk back and forward about your process so that we could help you identify your path to citizenship.
Hi guys, I'm Maria Valente and I'm very excited to meet you all at the 3 days challenge by Nelson Fontagarça. I'm sure you learned a lot about how to become a Portuguese citizen and finally make this dream come true. Let's do this and have so much fun on the way. Bye bye, see you all there.
They have done thousands of citizenships, complex cases, so they have the answer for any question that you might have and solve problems that you weren't able to solve up to now because they don't answer the phone or they don't email you at the places you've been trying. And you'll have access to this beautiful team, and I will be here with you, guiding you and helping you. If there's one thing you know I do is I get things done, and I will help you getting your Portuguese dual citizenship. Please join us on our challenge, and if you can, backstage on our VIP access, extraordinary lawyers that will help you on your path to dual citizenship.
Hi guys, I am Maria Valente and I'm going to be with you in this live. This is the second day of this 3 days challenge by Nelson Fontagarça. First of all, I hope you guys are having an amazing Thanksgiving weekend and a great time with your family and friends. This is Nelson's favorite holiday, and I confess I also love this time of the year. And as I said yesterday, it's a shame that we don't have this holiday in Portugal. We don't celebrate this here like you do in America, but we should always support our Portugal in this World Cup. Next game is Monday at 7 p.m. So guys, don't forget to watch this game and celebrate Portugal always. Welcome. Thank you for joining this challenge. It's a pleasure to meet you all. This is the second day of the challenge, as I said. Yesterday was great. We had a lot of people attending from all over the world, lawyers in the backstage, and a lot of tips of how to become a Portuguese citizen. As we did yesterday, today we are going to have a team of legal experts on the Zoom, on the backstage after this live. So join us to have full access to the best tips and advices about how to get your path to the Portuguese dual citizenship. Go to our website, www.portuguesecitizenship.org 3 days challenge and sign up, enter your email and have VIP access at the end of this live. Yesterday was great, so I fully recommend it. In the backstage, you can ask questions, all the questions that you have. You can ask questions to great lawyers, experts in different areas. Um, it doesn't matter if you are in Portugal, in America, if you speak Portuguese or English, they understand both languages. And it's also important to know which language do you prefer here in this life. So please comment on the comments, where are you, in which part of the world, and which language do you prefer, Portuguese or English? Me and Nelson, we are Portuguese, but we also speak English, so both of the languages are good for us. So type down where are you and which language do you prefer. And let's welcome Nelson. Nelson will be here with you very, very soon. He is a government advisor, entrepreneur, media producer, documentary director, TV host, writer, musician. And for the past 20 years, he had the opportunity to serve as an advisor to 4 consul generals of Portugal in the United States. He was elected to represent the Portuguese community in America as advisor to the Portuguese government. So all this experience as government advisor gave him a big network of contacts. So he's going to share with you all the tips and advices to become a Portuguese citizen without all the bureaucracy and all the long waits and confusing steps that you probably are used to. Welcome, Nelson.
Hello, Maria. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for that great introduction. I hope you're continuing to have a great Thanksgiving. It is a great family holiday. I usually say it's the best holiday without the worry of the gifts, where you get the family together. So happy Thanksgiving. Hope you're having some rest and enjoying a little bit of time learning how to become a Portuguese citizen. Thank you so much, Maria, for this great introduction. And we're going to start this live. Yesterday was great. We had a lot of people from all over. They have all kinds of great questions, and we had great answers as well from our team of legal experts that tried to answer everything that we could on the live, and then backstage we went more in depth. So it was a great session. This is day 2, so we have day 2 today, and then tomorrow we have the last day of the challenge. So by these 3 days, you'll have all the tips to become a Portuguese dual citizen way faster and way easier. Thank you, Maria. I will see you soon, and we're gonna get this started. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.
So let's get this started. Becoming a Portuguese dual citizen. First, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and how I got into this. I was born in Los Gatos, California, and when I founded my business in Portugal 5 years ago, it was a culture shock, a never-ending path of paperwork, confusing steps, only to find out that I always needed one more thing, or that it was not the right document. They kept sending me different ways. There wasn't a clear framework to where to get these things. Well, I'm sure some of you noticed this as well. When you come to Portugal, you try to do something, or even worse, when you try to do it from a distance. My goal here is to show you how I built what I call this proprietary framework to expedite your dual citizenship. It took me almost 20 years to fully understand this. About 4 years ago, I was still confused on some steps, as I had to do it for myself. And I can't wait to show you how this could work for you. If there's something that people that know me, that know about me, is that I get things done. I might not be perfect in all aspects of life, but I think I built a reputation of being driven, of getting things done. If it's something I don't know, I'll learn it. I'll go in depth. I'll try to get the best people, the best mentors. And for the past 20 years, I had the amazing opportunity to serve as an advisor to 4 consul generals, and each one usually stays for 4 years. So you do the math, that's almost 20 years. And in the past, I was also elected to represent in a volunteer way, with no pay, and advocate for the Portuguese community in America as Conselheiro das Comunidades Portuguesas and advisor to the Portuguese government. And this experience as a government advisor to the Secretaria de Estado das Comunidades, to the government of Azores, Portugal, Madeira in general, serving the world diaspora voluntarily, gave me access to a network of contacts, of people, of friends that gave me this framework to help serve my community. Just a few years ago, I was just like you, frustrated with Portuguese the legal system. I used to get really upset when I thought I had everything done, and then there was always something else missing. But now I can teach you how to do this and monitor your progress online. That's what's great about this, is that we'll have every step of the way, so you know exactly at what process and what's the next step and the estimated deadlines that we have to meet. And from obtaining and translating legal documents to many steps needed to become a dual citizen and getting your Portuguese ID and a European passport. And for the past 20 years living in California, I believed it was impossible to be able to live half the year in Portugal and half the year in America before I retired, because usually you do that when you're retired, and many Portuguese do that. They spend 6 months in Portugal, 6 months in America. I'm sure many of you relate with this, and I ask you to please comment where you come from, where you're tuning in from, some of your questions, but especially yet the area that you're at, so that we could bring you on screen here on the comments. About 5 years ago, I decided to live between my two favorite places, Zenalife in the bridge that I call, in between both worlds. It gave me a very deep understanding of both legal systems, having to deal with both countries that are so different, not only in culture, but legally. And this experience, especially my mistakes, gave me this framework to show you exactly what to do and not to do, especially, so you don't do the same mistakes I did. I just want to know one thing. Are you ready to get started? So please type where you're tuning in from, any questions that you may have, something that you appreciate about this show. Share with your friends. Click the button down there on this live. We're live in 7, 8 different platforms. My personal page, my like page, the LinkedIn, the YouTube, so that we could try to reach as many of you as we can. And remember earlier, I told you about this proprietary, unique framework we developed. Well, when I first started a business in Portugal and had to deal with all the paperwork, it was a big culture shock. I looked everywhere for a solution like this, and there were none. I looked and looked on YouTube, online. I asked people, and there was not a clear framework. Only sometimes on the consulate websites there would be some steps, but there wasn't a clear framework like this one. And for the past decade, I wrote books, Portuguese in California, TV documentaries, Portuguese in New England, Portuguese in Hawaii, in general, about the Portuguese living abroad, about all of you tuning in here. Some areas I haven't done, like Canada, but I really want to get into that community and study and really bring the best they have. And that's when I saw an opportunity to serve the community with something I'm very passionate, our Portuguese history and heritage. And especially now that Portugal has never been so popular. People are moving in never seen numbers from all over the world, especially also from America, and in particular, California. Who would say? It will become much harder and more expensive to do this in the future. I have no doubt about that, because of the amount of people that are trying to do this. So now is the time to get this going. And can you imagine you and your family going to Portugal? Where would you visit? What places would you go? Just type in where your roots are from in the chat right here. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. And imagine entering the airport, for example, on the security fast lane, because you're no longer a tourist. You're now a Portuguese national, European national citizen, using your ID everywhere, or not being afraid of going to the hostel because you now have a medical number, or getting resident benefits and discounts on air travel. Especially, there's good discounts on air travel, particularly with regional airlines, restaurants, and other local activities. This is what the dual citizenship can do for you. And we're going to start now with some of the paths. Try to give you a clear way on how you can do this, a clear way on each of the cases. And as I said yesterday, we will focus on 3 situations. From kids, I call it kids, which would be if you're trying to get citizenship from your parents. Grandkids, if you're trying to get from your grandparents because your parents weren't Portuguese, they were already born in America, Canada. And then also from spouses, if you married or if you have a spouse, if you're tuning into this and you're not Portuguese, but you married a Portuguese man or woman or what so, you're entitled to do that as well. So we're going to focus on those 3. And for that, I'm going to bring here some of our legal experts that we have here and also try to clarify that area. Before we do that, I want you to tell you that if you're frustrated, if you tried and you could not do it, you're not alone. Many people, very well-informed people, people with not only with the education, the degrees, the online savvy, they still have problems. And I'm going to give you one example of David that had some problems with this later on. And I'm going to start with a very particular story. A very good friend from California, Anja Costa Simões, very connected to the community, very aware of everything else, and she still had many issues. So I'm going to share her story now so that you could learn from this story and also understand that this could be a simple path. This could be an easy path. But if you don't do what you need to do, and if you don't have the tips, it could be a complicated process.
Well, Nelson, you and I have known each other for a very long time. We're going 25 plus years. Don't even want to count how many years we'll age each other. But I mean, we've spent lots of time planning events, doing things for the community, working tirelessly together. You're one of the few people that I've always been able to count on. If you say you're going to do something, I know you're going to do it. And if I want something done and I have you do it, I know it's going to get done and done well. We've collaborated on so many things. And so with this initiative, it's a problem that has been, many people have tried to address and help. And I think with those services, it's gotten a little bit better, but there's still the process and the blocks that happen in Portugal.
Now, talking about those blocks, Angela is going to tell you right now her story on how she tried to get to Portuguese citizenship and all the blocks and the roadblocks, as she calls it, that happened. So, Angela, let us know your story and what happened so that we could learn from the process.
All right. So I'm third generation Portuguese American and born and raised in California. My parents were born here. My grandparents, all of my grandparents were born here, but we're still 100% Portuguese. And yeah, we've been involved in the Portuguese community my whole life. Before I could walk, I was on a float. And then I marched in the parades. I was part of Luso. I was part of a folklore group. And I'm also part of the Portuguese Museum and Dia de Portugal in San Jose. And also, for the past 20 years, been very involved in PALCUS, the national organization. And then that's all in my free time. On my day job is I'm a public relations consultant. So I've been doing that for 23 years. As far as the citizenship goes, so my husband is a citizen because his parents were citizens. And so it was very easy for him to get it. And then he subsequently made our daughter a citizen, and that was quite easy. But for me, I was going to try and go through the grandparent route where it could skip a generation. So if my grandmother became a citizen, then I could and not have to worry about my mom. We didn't immediately go for marriage because we were told that is much more subjective. Also, we thought it might be cool for my grandmother to become a citizen after all these years. On her birth certificate, and she was born here in California, her name is spelled Alicia. It was a roadblock. It was just a straight up roadblock because there was no name change document. And this was over 10 years ago that we went down this route. So I think there may be a name change document that you can do now, but this was a long time ago where Portugal basically said, oh, well, it's not the same person. So unless you can show us a name change document, nothing we can do. So that was a big problem. And then the other problem was that the agency I was working through at the time said that they could not find my great grandparents' records. Well, because they were born before 1900, they were no longer, and it was the district of Foz do Agudos. And yeah, so they just were like, oh, we can't find their records. So even if I was able to figure out the name change thing with my grandmother, because they couldn't find my great grandparent, her parents' records, there would have been no way to prove that she was their daughter, right? So it was just a mess. So we changed strategy and started the process for the marriage. So applying through marriage. I was told that you have to prove a really strong connection to Portugal. I didn't have to take a Portuguese language test. So that was good, though I probably could have passed, but I didn't have to take that. But I answered, it was like 30 questions that I was told at the time had to be handwritten. And then, just getting all the paperwork together takes a long time, right? You have to get an FBI background check. Yeah. So that actually wasn't too bad. You just go to a post office that will do it. And you take your fingerprints and they submit them. The process is very simple. And what else? Oh, and then the other thing was you have to make sure that you print out the application on the A4 size paper, because otherwise they won't accept it if it's the wrong size paper. And because it's through marriage, you're supposed to submit directly to Portugal. So I sent my stuff directly to Portugal, waited a year, hadn't heard anything. I didn't get an email or anything saying your application has been received or anything like that. So it was about another 6 months, and my husband happened to be going to Portugal. And I asked him, hey, if you have some time, can you go by the registry and just see if they have my application? So it was a good thing that he went, because the guy looked it up. Oh, yeah, I see it here. Well, next week, a letter's going to go out to tell her that she has an incomplete application. My husband says, you have 24 hours to fax me a new application signed, and then you have to FedEx it over. So we did that. And so that was the last step in the process. That was about a year ago.
Yeah, so this is an example from somebody that is very connected with a community like Angela, that is very experienced and still had some problems. It's not always like this, but especially in cases that demand some more steps, it happens. And I'm going to have a tip here from Duarte Silva, from emeritus professor from Stanford University, that also helps Portuguese Americans with some documents. And if you have a case where you submitted your paperwork and you haven't heard for years on that, here's one tip that he's got for you.
I really think it's much better to resubmit it, because if you put a tracer on it, it's going to take another 3 years. Okay. And documents do get lost. Okay. They get lost if they were filed in a consulate office, or they were filed, whatever they were filed at, somehow they get lost in the shuffle. Same thing happens here with the Secretary of State. When I go and request an apostille, and a month goes by, 2 months goes by, and I don't hear anything. If I put a tracer on it, it's going to take 6 months to a year for them to investigate to see where those papers are. I don't do that. I immediately refile again. And when I do any kind of document that requires an apostille from Sacramento, I have the individual, when I meet with the individual to notarize the request, I immediately have them sign 2 or 3 copies, because believe it or not, the paperwork, the filings get lost in the system.
And that is something that we keep hearing, not only from Duarte, from David, from a few others that we've talked with, that the documents, sometimes there's so many cases that they get lost. And this is one of the tips, is that in those cases, it's better to resubmit. Now I'm going to contact and bring here to the live Paul Menezes, that is has a law office in Los Angeles, California. A very good friend, Paul, and there's one of the things that he tells us that most of you have a problem with, which is obtaining Portuguese legal documents. And this is the bridge that we want to make with you as we bridge Portugal, Canada, America, and eventually other countries where you need that, because there's some things that are very easy, that are easier to obtain in Portugal, but you might not know how to do it. And Paul Menezes, I think he puts that up beautifully here for us.
The hardest part, I think, is gathering all the proper documents, number one, and then number two, having the proper documents in an acceptable legal format that will be accepted in Portugal. So that becomes the biggest question that people, they get frustrated with. The other part of it is sometimes people don't have access to all these documents. Maybe it was their grandfather, so they're doing a grandparent to grandchild citizenship, and they can't find a birth certificate. They can't find a marriage certificate. They can't find certain documents. Or maybe the parents are alive, but they don't have the documents, and they need to obtain an assentment in Portugal. Well, how do we do that?
Yeah, so how do you do that? We're here to help you, to answer your questions. So tell us where you're tuning in from, and I'm going to bring Maria here to the live. Maria.
Hi
Um,
again. Thank
so
you all for being here again. As
absolutely, yeah.
we just heard the stories of Nelson and Angela, and it's really impressive. I know that this may seem a nightmare to get this dual citizenship, but as you saw, it's possible. And with Nelson, everything is possible. So you can really trust him. And join us on the backstage. Don't forget to sign up. You have the link here. You just have to click on www.portuguesecitizenship.org. Um, and we are going to answer all their questions, not me, but all the lawyers and the experts. They are very good at this. They have done like thousands of cases, and some of them very complex. So you don't worry, you are in good hands with Nelson and his beautiful team.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, especially our big team that we have here, and they can solve pretty much and answer any of the questions that you might have. And talking about team, one of the incredible lawyers that we have as our network of experts, he is currently in America, and he is releasing a book about law precisely, and he's been doing this for years and years. And he's going to tell us here how easy it is to get some of the Portuguese documents, actually easier than in America in some cases, or Canada, even if that seems like hard to believe. There are some documents that are easier to obtain here, like a birth certificate, for example, that a lawyer could get in America. It would have to be the person themselves. So I'm going to bring in Paulo. Thank you, Maria. We'll see you soon on the live. Thank you so much. We'll see you very soon. So let's bring in Nelson Terez, currently in the United States, in the New Jersey area, releasing his book about law. He goes there a lot to help many people, and he's got some really good tips for us and some good news. Everything is not difficult in Portugal with bureaucracy. There's also some good news, and here's some good news for you.
In Portugal, for an attorney, it's relatively easy to get I would say very easy, indeed, to get a birth certificate, a death certificate, a marriage certificate. We can do it online, or if we go personally to any conservatoria, they give the document the same day to us. So that's an advantage, and it's cheap. If you do it online, it's 10 euros per certificate. If you go in person to the conservatoria, it's 20 euros. So, either way, it's not expensive. And we get it very, very fast. In America, it's totally different. For example, I have an associate in California. I needed a birth certificate from California, and it took like over a month to get the birth certificate. We had to provide my associate a power of attorney so he could act on behalf of the client. And the whole process cost like over $500. So it's something that there's no comparison whatsoever with the system here in Portugal. If we are talking about son to a father, it's a very easy proceeding. We need a power of attorney stating that it's given to me powers, for example, to represent the person at the conservatoria to get the person the Portuguese citizenship. The power of attorney is the first thing to do. The second thing is to get an American birth certificate. It cannot be a copy. It's got to be certified. It's got to be a certified copy, an authentic document, and it's got to be apostilled. It's got to be apostilled by the state, in this case, California. If it is New Jersey, New Jersey. If it is Massachusetts, Massachusetts. It's got to be apostilled by the state. If the birth certificate, it's not apostilled by the state, the process or the proceeding will not be accepted at the conservatoria. So it's the power of attorney, the birth certificate of the applicant, and the birth certificate of the father or the mother. We can get it in Portugal like I was saying a little while ago, on an easy way.
Right, so that's good news. That's good news that we have here from Nelson Terezo, and we're gonna go. I invite you, Maria, to help me here to
Of
go through the
course.
comments, and we're gonna go check out, and we invite them to tell us where they're coming from, their name, so we bring them on screen and see how we can help them.
Yeah, type down in the comments, where are you? We have people, we believe, from all over the world. This person, so we have from Pismo Beach, we have from Azores in Portugal. in Portuguese, we say Azores. From California, speak both, but English may be easier to understand steps.
Olha, se
So
calhar agora
that's
uma boa
why
oportunidade de falarmos
bocadinho de
português, não é,
português.
Maria? E vai, e vai.
Sim, nós gostamos muito de português, portanto. Outra pessoa de Pismo Beach, muito bem. Açores.
Cecília Andrade Soares, de Hayward.
Vão
Hayward fica
escrevendo
ali na área.
sempre de onde é que nos vêm.
Vocês vão
Nós
escrevendo quem
gostamos de
esteja.
saber. E isto também é uma boa oportunidade para conseguirmos interagir uns com os outros, para termos noção de onde estão e tornarmos isto assim um bocadinho mais interativo.
Temos aqui um usuário que diz que não está a conseguir entrar backstage, portanto nós backstage enviamos o link Zoom, que o backstage é depois do live, para estarmos mais privados, a falar cada um das perguntas que tenham, de uma forma assim, com mais tempo, mais privada. Portanto, este é o live, portanto, as pessoas às vezes fazem um bocadinho de confusão. Este é o live e depois a seguir há o backstage. O backstage, o que é, no fundo, é um Zoom call em que nós temos acesso em que podem fazer perguntas à nossa equipe. E, portanto, temos também aqui a Catarina, portanto, aqui com um comentário. Portanto, temos aqui a Michelle da Silva de Gilroy. Portanto, temos Ontário, Canadá. Ontário, Canadá, nós ontem, nós estamos a ver as estatísticas e Ontário foi talvez dos sítios onde tivemos mais pessoas que estiveram live, não é?
New Jersey também, muito bem.
Portanto, aqui às vezes o programa não tem a capacidade de ver quem é, portanto, depende porque está em várias plataformas, estamos no Portuguese Citizen, estamos portanto, nos meus Facebook pessoais, portanto, no like page, em várias páginas no YouTube e, portanto, o StreamYard está a tentar aqui perceber toda a gente de onde é que eles vêm. Portanto, digam-nos, quero ver aqui já os vossos comentários, sobretudo a dizer-nos de onde é que são, algumas dificuldades que tenham e, portanto, interajam connosco. Nós até no futuro quero ver se trazemos aqui as pessoas ao live também, escolhendo algumas que possam participar e, portanto, estou aqui a receber também mais outras mensagens.
Mais uma pessoa da Califórnia. Há muita gente da Califórnia.
A Califórnia é a maior comunidade portuguesa em todo o mundo e, portanto, em todo o mundo, credo, salvo seja. Nos Estados Unidos da América, a maior do mundo fora da Europa é o Brasil e na Europa é a França, claro. A maior comunidade portuguesa no mundo, França, Brasil e então depois temos Estados Unidos e Canadá. Mas é uma comunidade muito especial, uma comunidade muito bilingue. That's why we've been talking in English, but tell us, because we really want to know if this audience today here prefers Portuguese, we'll talk in Portuguese. If they prefer English, we'll do English. So tell us what's your preferred language and tell us where you're coming from, right, Maria?
And don't forget to sign up for the backstage. It's an amazing opportunity to get all your questions answered by amazing specialists and experts in this subject. If you really want to make this dream come true, this is the way.
Yes, and Maria is going to be hosting with you as I finish this live because we still have about 15-20 minutes here to go, and then we're going to be backstage with you. All you have to do is go on to our PortugueseCitizenship.org/3-day challenge, put your email in, and we'll sign you up for that. Or here we will do a free live where you could throw your questions. Please send us your questions and especially tell us where you're coming from, what area you're tuning in from, and if you would like to do citizenship and what steps and what roadblocks you found on your way. Maria, we'll see you very soon. Yes, and Maria is going to have some updates for you here soon with a Portugal game, in case you're wondering who's the next team Portugal is going to play and what time is it, although the time It's completely a mess now as far as people are in Azores and Madeira and California and the East Coast and Canada and other parts of the world. We had people tuning in from France yesterday, from England. So Maria is going to be coming here with some updates on the game because I know we're all looking forward to that Monday game. So Maria, I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
So now we're going to go back to some advice because this is what we're doing, the 3-day challenge where we try to tell you. And I'm Nelson Pontagarça. If you're just tuning in, NPG, because it is a complex name and I make it easier with the NPG. And I want you to please tell us where you're tuning in from and what's your question about citizenship and how you heard about what we're doing. And we're going to continue here with Nelson Terez that is giving us some great advice on different paths. Now, the first path we're gonna give you some tips here is if you want to try to get citizenship through your parents. So what I call kids, the kids package, the kids way. That's usually the easier path, the path that takes a little bit less time. So Nelson's going to tell you some tips about this. Thank you.
In Portugal, for an attorney, it's relatively easy to get I would say very easy, indeed, to get a birth certificate, a death certificate, a marriage certificate. We can do it online, or if we go personally to any conservatoria, they give the document the same day to us. So that's an advantage. And it's cheap. If you do it online, it's 10 euros per certificate. If you go in person to the conservatoria, it's 20 euros. So, either way, it's not expensive. And we get it very, very fast. In America, it's totally different. For example, I have an associate in California. I needed a birth certificate from California, and it took like over a month to get the birth certificate.
Now, if you can, try this path through your parents. It's the easiest path. If you can't, then you can do it through your grandparents or to your spouse. And if you're tuning in and you're not even of any Portuguese connection, there's other options. Portanto, mais uma vez, eu destaco aqui que se puderem tentar a cidadania através dos pais, é sempre muito mais fácil e muito mais rápido. E como o Nelson vai confirmar aqui, há casos, portanto, isto o que se estima normalmente entre 6 meses a 1 ano, mas há casos em que se consegue até mais rápido e há casos que depois levam mais algum tempo. Vou-lhe deixar aqui um exemplo para verem como isto pode ser bastante rápido se for tudo bem feito.
I work with a certain conservatory do Registro Civil. They work relatively fast. I would say it takes like from 1 month to 3 months. But if I go to a conservatory centrais, it's going to take forever. So it's not an option. The conservatories centrais, that's the last resort, we should go to the Conservatório of Registro Civil that has legal power to do so. I named a few: Coimbra, Évora, Ponta Delgada, but there are more. Alcobaça, there are more. Over 25, 30 probably that take care of the Portuguese citizenship application. 2-3 months. I had a case that took only 2 weeks. It all depends, and it all depends how many applications they have there. It all depends, but it's a lot quicker, that's for sure, than it is in the conservatórios centrais.
Thank you, Nelson. And this path throughout your parents is the easiest one. Now, if there's no way you could do that, there's another path you could try, which is through your grandparents. And through your grandparents, there's a few more steps, and this is a more complex process. But here's going to be some tips from Nelson on how to do this through your grandparents, so you get ready.
If the applicant wants to do it directly through the grandfather or grandmother, there are some requirements, extra requirements, like having a close relationship with the local Portuguese community. Another requirement is to know the Portuguese language. If it doesn't know the Portuguese language, it has to prove that it has contacts with the Portuguese clubs, the Portuguese community at large, let me put it this way. And it has to present the confirmation of that relationship. For example, the Portuguese Club of Yonkers issues a document stating that this person comes to the club, is pretty much involved with the club's activities, and has a big part in the club's organization or activity or whatsoever. If not, for example, let's suppose that the grandchild has been living in Portugal for the last 5 years. That's easier because it's easy to prove that I've been living in Portugal for the last 5 years. So it's easy. But the thing is, it's got to be proven. Unlike the other case, the father to son, the son to father, or daughter to father or mother, and the mother to daughter. That's very simple because just a birth certificate, the power of attorney, and that's it. And the case is solved. Not with the grandchildren. The grandchildren, the law requires some more things to comply with.
And now there's also one third path that we're going to be working here on this challenge today. That is through your spouse, and through your spouse. Here's some tips also for you to use and to start getting ready for your citizenship.
Spouse has to give the criminal background because if let's suppose that the applicant was convicted of a crime with jail for 3 years, he won't qualify. He won't qualify. Will not be eligible to be a Portuguese citizen. So they ask for the criminal background, the proof of marriage. If the couple is not married, has to go to court to prove that they were living together for the last 3 years. It's much more demanding when it comes to the couple.
Okay.
Well, if the applicant was convicted for a crime that predicts 3 years in jail, automatically that applicant is excluded. So he doesn't qualify. He's not eligible to be a Portuguese citizen. That's an example that I'm giving. Obviously, we're talking about crimes with some significance. Or some complexity. Obviously, if we get a ticket, a speeding ticket, obviously that's not the case. We're 3 years in jail. It's got to be a significant crime already. I'm not saying murder or anything else, but it's got to be a significant crime already.
Yeah, so those are 3 paths I think were explained very clearly. And if you have more questions, Nelson will be with us either today or tomorrow on the backstage. And we have Maria here. We're going to bring Maria, so because she's going to get ready to go backstage. So she's going to leave us here on the live. Maria, we had people from all over the place, and we're going to show their comments. We've got Michelle.
Terceira.
And Michelle had here some questions.
We already have here some questions and different cases.
So Michelle,
you will be able to see all these questions answered very soon on the backstage.
And Michelle,
yeah.
Sorry, Maria. Can you bring your volume down on the computer?
Sure.
Michelle, on this one, just very quickly, according to our legal experts, the best way is to submit again. that's unfortunately the case, because you might be for years and years not hearing for a response. Maria, so I'll see you backstage.
See you.
So throw us your comments, and we want to bring them live. And I'm going to leave you here with a testimonial before we answer Michelle here. Let me just get the computer ready, get rid of this delay that you're hearing here, as I bring a very good friend from Los Angeles into our life.
Nelson, this is what he's going to do for you. He's going to introduce to you the stress relief of becoming a Portuguese citizen without you having to leave your house. And this is what we need. This is what we need. And only Nelson can do that, because he's the only one brave enough to take those steps that stands in the way of all of these people trying to get through and do something good, become Portuguese citizens, especially in Portugal, because it takes decades to get something done. Not only will he make you a citizen of Portugal, but he'll also make you a resident. He's a great real estate developer, but he's not trying to get your money. That's not what it's all about. It's all about his heart, because he wants to help people without spending a lot of money and spending time and stuff like that, because he's been through it. He knows how long it takes. When I said decades, man, I meant like 200 years back. I mean, we had to go through New York years ago. Now, we don't have to do that because of technology. And then you'll be waving the red, green, and yellow flag, and you'll be going, Heroes do mar, nobre povo, nação.
Well, Nelson, you and I have known each other for a very long time. We're going 25 plus years. Don't even want to count how many years we'll age each other. But I mean, we've spent lots of time planning events, doing things for the community, working tirelessly together. You're one of the few people that I've always been able to count on. If you say you're going to do something, I know you're going to do it. And if I want something done and I have you do it, I know it's going to get done and done well. We've collaborated on so many things, and so with this initiative, it's a problem that has been many people have tried to address and help. And I think with those services, it's gotten a little bit better, but there's still the process and the blocks that happen in Portugal. And so I know that if you say that you're going to fix that process and help expedite that process and make things smoother and easier for people to apply and get their Portuguese citizenship, I know you will. I have 100% confidence in everything that you do.
Eu conheço o Nelson Ponta Garça há muitos anos, através do Consulado-Geral de Portugal em São Francisco, do qual era funcionária. O Nelson sempre mostrou uma capacidade de trabalho enorme, de boa vontade para chegar ao fim de uma meta. Através dos seus livros e dos seus vídeos, ele tem dado a conhecer as diversas comunidades portuguesas nos Estados Unidos, uma obra que merece a melhor atenção, e está de parabéns por tudo o que tem conseguido até agora. Desejo as maiores felicidades no futuro, que continue, que não desanime, que, embora encontrando dificuldades pelo caminho, vá sempre em frente e que seja sempre feliz.
Well, I've known you, Nelson, now for I don't know how many years, but many years, and you've known all my close friends and my close family, and you've become part of the family in our community too. From your pictures, your videos, your books, you've built a huge credibility within all the communities, I believe. your interaction with the consulate office, with the government of Portugal, you've built that respect, not only here in the United States, but in Portugal, mostly in principle, because of the way you've held yourself out to the immigrant communities, and you've been able to cover that, there's large Portuguese populations in the United States and abroad that care about being Portuguese and care about Portugal and care about becoming citizens, etc. So I think you're very well positioned, not only with the respect that you have from many people, including myself, but also the respect of the Portuguese government in order to facilitate and assist those that would love to become Portuguese citizens. And I think it's in line with the model of what Portugal has been trying to do with not only travel, but immigration to Portugal, investment in Portugal, etc. One of the key of those three, you can travel to Portugal, anyone can travel there, but investing in Portugal, living in Portugal, becoming a citizen is essential to all those things. And so for those who can, whether it's through investment or through family relationship, marriage, etc., that want to be Portuguese.
So we're minutes away from going backstage. Thank you so much for tuning in our second day free challenge. And I'm gonna start throwing here our backstage here so that we could have here's our feedback. And we will see you very, very, very soon tomorrow. Please join us backstage or join us free in our third day challenge here tomorrow at the same time. Please join us.
Becoming a Portuguese citizen, your framework to an expedited path to dual citizenship. Hi, I'm NPG, and I help Portuguese descendants all over the world with dual citizenship, guiding them along with our network of experts all the way from here in Lisbon to America, without confusing steps and bureaucratic documents. I know, it's very hard to believe, but you can learn how on our 3-day challenge on becoming a Portuguese dual citizen. Sign up right here. Can you imagine yourself here in the center of Lisbon? Who would you bring? Your family, your friends? Imagine the things you could do with your Portuguese dual citizenship. You could go to the hospital, you could use any of the Medicare that Europe has to offer, you could work and study. This experience of having your citizenship, it's something that is easy. It's not the nightmare you're used to hearing everybody describe, so that you have access to some of these documents, to Portuguese documents that are difficult for you to understand. You'll need a birth certificate, for example, certidão de nascimento, a marriage certificate, and a whole bunch of forms that you need to fill on this process of becoming a Portuguese dual citizen. This team of people you could trust, people that could really take care of you and your citizenship, walk you by the hand all the way through the process. Very knowledgeable lawyers, solicitadores, notários públicos that will help you on this process. And you could ask your questions. Join me backstage on the VIP Access Pass so that you could ask questions that you have. You can find your path to citizenship, or even if you are a citizen but you want to get the citizenship for your kids and you're wondering what do you need to do, what's the next step, you could ask questions. Lawyers of experts in this area from here in Lisbon, from America, in Portuguese, in English. Being backstage has the advantage of being able to do these questions, to interact with us, to be on the same room and talk back and forward about your process so that we could help you identify your path to citizenship.
Hi guys, I'm Maria Valente and I'm very excited to meet you all at the 3 days challenge by Nelson Fontagarça. I'm sure you learned a lot about how to become a Portuguese citizen and finally make this dream come true. Let's do this and have so much fun on the way. Bye bye, see you all there.
They have done thousands of citizenships, complex cases, so they have the answer for any question that you might have and solve problems that you weren't able to solve up to now because they don't answer the phone or they don't email you at the places you've been trying. And you'll have access to this beautiful team, and I will be here with you guiding you and helping you. If there's one thing you know I do is I get things done, and I will help you getting your Portuguese dual citizenship. Please join us on our challenge, and if you can, backstage on our VIP access extraordinary lawyers that will help you on your path to dual citizenship.